What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the 60 for 60 podcast. My name is Eric.
My name is Tom.
My name's Zach.
My name is James.
And we are the Nomads, and we are here with one heck of a podcast for you guys. We're going to be breaking down the Super Bowl. We're going to be breaking down the Eagles, the Patriots, looking at the roster, looking at the outside forces, looking at the area they're playing in, taking everything into consideration. And we are going to see who we think is going to win the Super Bowl when it's all said and done. I'm super excited about this podcast, but we have a few minor notes to start off with before we get there. Focusing on the NBA real quick. First off, we have some injury news. Kevin Love broke his hand, out 6 to 8 weeks. John Wall had surgery on his knee, out 6 to 8 weeks. What do you think this impact will have on the East, as well as Blake Griffin coming into Detroit and Detroit giving up two extremely skilled position players for him that I think they gave up too much? But what do you guys think? What do you think the scenery in the East, and do you think there's a major trade need on any of these teams right now?
Honestly, I'll start with the Detroit and the Detroit trade for Blake Griffin with the Clippers, because I actually looked into some of this, and I think this is more or less a tale of two teams going in two different directions here. The Clippers are clearly wanting to go into this rebuilding stage. They're clearly moving on from almost all their players. They decided not to go forward with Blake Griffin as like the main guy in Los Angeles, so they got a draft pick and two young talented players from the Pistons. Great for a team that's rebuilding. Those two guys, great for a team that's rebuilding, but not great for the direction that Detroit appears to be going in, which is this win now kind of thing. So they wanted to pull in a player like Blake Griffin, who's very good on the floor, and he's just a great personality to have in the locker room, to kind of pair up with Drummond and have like their own very talented core, and they clearly plan to make a run at this thing. The Clippers are going to continue. I don't think they're done with their moves. First of all, I think they're going to try to trade DeAndre Jordan for at least another draft pick, and they're going to start keeping these draft picks, and they're going to have like 3 in the first round or something next year. And if everything goes according to plan, they'll have a very young, talented team next season. But clearly, this is a tale of two teams. And I think this trade works out pretty good for both of the teams. The Clippers clearly are not about winning right now. They've realized that they need to go back to the drawing board and kind of rebuild their roster. And they've made a heck of a start with this trade. And Blake Griffin to the Pistons, I think the Pistons are really all about making a run at this thing right now with Drummond playing very well. And they got a good team. Blake Griffin's just going to make that team better. So as far as the trade goes, I think it's actually pretty even when it's all said and done, when you think about what the two teams are doing individually.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Tom on that point about the Clippers. They want to trade away DeAndre Jordan. They kind of want a fresh start. Also, I think that the biggest difference in terms of injury is probably going to be Kevin Love. I mean, he's been underappreciated in Cleveland for a long time, and he's going to find out his value very, very soon over the next week or so. I think the Cavs are going to try to make a move with that Brooklyn pick. If they don't make a Brooklyn pick that's kind of like FU from Dan Gilbert to LeBron, like, hey, we're planning on going to the future and not playing with you in our future. So the John Wall injury is going to be pretty big, but I think Bradley Beal will be able to maintain that team throughout that, and they still got Kelly Oubre and the other pieces around him, so they'll be fun.
So I think the Kevin Love injury was the most important. I want to see them actually evolve as a team to actually do better without Kevin Love. Maybe they could actually start winning again. Or maybe they could go pick up somebody on the trade deadline. I haven't really seen much anybody actually talking to Cleveland for a trade, but I think they should go look for somebody. Look for somebody to get traded. They're looking at George Hill, though. That would be a good fit.
I think for me, I agree with you guys. I think the Kevin Love injury is a bigger deal, honestly. Pretty much, mainly because, like Zach said, he's been extremely underappreciated. And, Isaiah Thomas hasn't gotten up to speed. I was talking to quite a few people today, actually, about a lot of these moves going on in the East. Two on Twitter, one a customer at work, and then Greg, my boss, huge Cavalier fan I mentioned before in previous podcasts. He they all think that Cleveland could be in serious trouble without Kevin Love. Greg said he wouldn't even be surprised if Cleveland falls out of the top 4. Just because it's clear that this is probably the worst team that LeBron has had around him, or the worst performing team anyway, that LeBron has had around him since he's come back to Cleveland. And worse in a very long time, since before he left Cleveland the first time. So it's almost gotten to a bleak output for Cleveland here. They need to make a trade. That Brooklyn pick has got to go unless Dan Gilbert does not think they have a chance to win the finals and he wants to prepare for a future without LeBron. We could talk about where LeBron could go later on, but, for me, with the Wizards, John Wall's injury, I actually think plays to Scott Brooks' advantage. Scott Brooks has a problem with playing with 2 stars. They're going to need John Wall back for the playoffs, but Scott Brooks has played pretty well having 1 star lead the floor because it gets people like Porter, who needs to perform better, makes him pick up. Kelly Oubre, he can now step up. Satoransky, all he has to do is just pass the ball. Get the ball out of his hands, run the floor. The problem for the Wizards is with John Wall being hurt, now you're kind of stretched thin. If you give up anything for a trade to make your team better, then you might end up falling short without John Wall in the regular season. Could help you for the playoffs, though. So, the Wizards have a lot of decisions to make now, but, for me, this is Kevin Love injury is going to be a lot worse for Cleveland and the East. As far as Detroit pickup with Blake Griffin, I think Detroit gave up too much. I think they're going to miss. I think they're going to miss Tobias Harris. They gave up a lot of really good intermediate scoring and a lot of deep scoring for a guy who's pretty much a lob master. I'll be honest, and I'm sure I might be the minority here, but I've always thought Blake Griffin was a little bit overrated. He's a monster underneath the rim, but I think he benefited a lot from Chris Paul, and I think we kind of saw that with the Clippers this year. And then obviously being hobbled by injury hasn't helped him. But, I feel like for both teams, they just kind of stabilized. And I don't know if Detroit really gained an advantage over the rest of the teams in the East. I still think Boston is the best team in the East right now. I don't think that changed with that trade. On the West side, really, really quickly, because I know we want to get to the Super Bowl, Boogie Cousins down for the year, Achilles tear. Free agent next year. What happens to him? Because his value kind of drops now.
I think he stays right where he is. The Pelicans clearly they like the base that they have. Anthony Davis likes playing with Boogie Cousins, so I think if the Pelicans have any sense at all, they'll try to re-sign him, get him long term, as well as Anthony Davis. That's a great base to build off of. After that, you can draft some, young shooters, some rookie young shooters, and this is really all they need, and they can be a huge threat to the elite of the West, in my opinion. So keep the base you have, Pelicans. Have a little sense.
I gotta agree with Tom on that. I mean, you saw after Boogie Cousins' big game, Anthony Davis kind of embraced him and hugged him like he was like his brother. I mean, I think Anthony Davis is really selling Boogie Cousins on staying in New Orleans. I think, like Tom said, if they get a lot of shooters, or get even like 2 or 3 shooters, like a Aaron or a Eric Gordon type in Houston, or a Nick Young type in Golden State, I think they can do really well. But that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think you should just stay where you're at. You're already liked in that, and like Zach said, just get a shooter. Get that boy Grayson Allen. If he could constantly hit threes, just put him on the arc. You got 2 guys in the middle. Maybe get 1 more shooter. There we go.
Yeah, I think his best bet would probably be to stay where he's at. If you had asked me this question 6 months ago, I told you he needed to get the hell out of New Orleans because I feel like that organization is trying to pull Cleveland pre-LeBron's move to Miami, where they're just going to try to ride Anthony Davis out and give him no help. And I always thought Boogie Cousins wasn't exactly what they needed. They need shooters. But I feel like if Anthony Davis stays in New Orleans and he can, he like Zach said, he's pretty much taken him under his wing, and they've pretty much become really close friends. So, if Anthony Davis stays in New Orleans, I think Boogie Cousins stays in New Orleans. But New Orleans has got to do something, and they really have kind of sat on their hands in free agency and the draft. They haven't really done much to put a lot of good talent around the two of them. That's got to change, and you've got to let Boogie Cousins know this is going to change to attract him to get him to stay there. But that is all the NBA action that I have, and we're going to ignore the action that happened in the NFL last night because I don't feel like talking about that right now. Get depressed? Nope, not going to happen. We'll wait for next podcast because we have bigger news in the NFL, and that is the Super Bowl. So we are going to be breaking down the positions. I believe Tom has come up with a point system for us to determine exactly who we think is going to win this Super Bowl out. Tom, do you want to explain your point system here that you've come up with so that the listeners know how we're judging these teams?
Okay, so it's a pretty simple system. We're going to go position by position. So, for example, if we start with quarterbacks and then we go around the horn here, obviously we have 4 people, so that's 4 possible votes to as to who has the advantage. So, for example, if all 4 of us say the Patriots have the advantage in quarterback, that Tom Brady's better than Nick Foles, then that's 4-0 in favor of the Patriots, and the Patriots get the edge in quarterbacks. Likewise, let's go position by position all the way down the major positions of the of each roster. But obviously we have 4 people, so a tie is possible. So if we go 2-2, then we'll just call it a draw, and we'll just say that they're even in that position. Everything makes sense?
Sounds good to me.
And someone can, I guess, can keep track of what we're saying. If you want to do that, Eric, or
yeah, let me
open like a note or something like and keep track of who has the edge and which ones are even. And then you can just like break it down at the end, and we can decide who's going to win the Super Bowl.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, so
I love the enthusiasm.
Position groups.
Let's start with an easy one, and that's head coach. Let's start with head coach. Let's include the head coach here. I feel like this one's a pretty easy split here. Doug Peterson versus Bill Belichick. Who do you give the advantage to and why? And does Doug Peterson even have a chance?
Honestly, no. As far as head coaches go, Bill Belichick is clearly... you don't have to like the guy. In fact, most people hate the guy, but you can't deny that he is a head coaching genius in the NFL. He's so adaptive with his game strategies and plans. He can work with anybody, as clearly evidenced by the Patriots the last few years. And yeah, he's just such a good head coach, and you can't deny that from him. So Doug Peterson has potential. Obviously, he did really good this season with the Eagles, despite losing arguably their best player in Carson Wentz, the glue that held this team together. They still made it all the way to the Super Bowl against all odds with Nick Foles at the helm. So clearly something about Doug Peterson is doing well on this team. He's a great head coach, and he will be a great head coach, but he's nowhere near the level of Bill Belichick right now. So I'll give the edge to the Patriots on that one.
Yeah, I have to agree. I got to give the edge to Bill Belichick. I mean, one day we'll get to know the answer, whether it's the chicken or the egg, but for now, Belichick dominates. He's the top coach in the league.
I'm going to give it to Belichick. Come on, he developed 2 possible head coach candidates this offseason. One's about to go Colts, one's about to go Detroit. He developed those on his own. They were born in his system. So yeah, it definitely goes to Belichick.
Yeah, I agree. It's Belichick. I feel like Doug Peterson has done great with what he's had, but it's got to be Belichick. I mean, he's clearly the best coach in the league. Y'all have said it before. Like James even added on there. I was gonna say it, but he's basically groomed 2 head coaches for next season. Matt Patricia, and it's just fascinating what he does year in and year out. I read an article today that said that other coaches from other leagues take what Bill Belichick does and puts it into their into their system. So yeah, absolutely 4-0 split for 4-0 sweep for the Pats. They definitely have the head coaching position down. Now, moving on to another one that I feel like would have been a decent competition, but given the results of the last 6 weeks, might not be, and that's the quarterback. So Tom, start. Who do you think has the advantage here, and why? And you can get a little bit creative if you think that maybe the Eagles have it, but go on.
You know what? As much as I'd love to say that Nick Foles is better than Tom Brady, there's no way I can say that without without being drunk and or high. Nick Foles has done fantastic this postseason. Don't get me wrong at all. And if we're talking about Carson Wentz versus Tom Brady, a healthy Carson Wentz versus Tom Brady, this might be pretty even, to be honest, judging how they've been playing this season, of course. You can't deny Tom Brady is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league, despite all the hate that he gets and the fact that I personally don't like him that much. I can't deny that he's a fantastic player. Nick Foles at that level, but he has done a fantastic job carrying this momentum and this underdog mentality through the playoffs. He's knocked off some pretty impressive teams and gotten his team to the Super Bowl. Now he's starting in the Super Bowl after holding a clipboard pretty much all year long. So huge burden. I'd love to cheer for the underdog, but I think Tom Brady gets the advantage in quarterbacks.
I'd have to give it to Brady too. But interesting little factoid is that both of these quarterbacks have the highest touchdown interception ratio in NFL history for all season. Brady, I believe, went 28-3, and then Foles went 27-1. So I thought it was pretty interesting. I think if you give Foles the right weapons, which he does, he could maybe outperform the expectations that the outsiders set for him and he himself sets for himself. But it has to go to Brady.
Foles is a great quarterback, and he showed that a few years back before he got hurt and benched. But he's on the other side of Brady. What's going to win this matchup is experience. Brady's been there before. Brady knows how to win a Super Bowl. Nick Foles is first one, so he doesn't have the experience yet, so I'm giving it to Brady.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like this gap is a lot closer than most people want to admit it to be. I think but we're doing it based off of edge, not based off of points. So I would say this is more like a 3-2 split in terms of Brady versus Foles, but that 3 is Brady. Like James said, absolute smothering and experience, performance-wise, year in and year out. Foles has had a couple really good seasons. Foles has a jersey in the Hall of Fame for 6 touchdowns in a game. So Foles is more than capable of carrying his own weight, more than capable of running the offense. But in terms of straight quarterback play and position talent, it's got to be Brady. So moving on to the man behind the quarterback, and that is the running back position. Now, we have got a breakdown of the rosters. The running backs currently on the Philadelphia Eagles roster, Jay Ajayi, Barner, Blunt, Clement, Pumphrey, Smallwood, and Sproles. Now, obviously, quite a few of them are injured. A couple of them are on the training camp squad. But we do know that Ajayi and Blunt are going to be heavily featured, and Clement will probably be as well on the Eagles side. On the Patriots side, they have far fewer running backs on the roster. Bolden, Burkhead, Gillislee, Lewis, and White. And we know Dion Lewis and White are going to be the 2 main people pulling the load for the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Who do you think has the advantage here?
It's been pretty much all Patriots so far in this discussion, but this is the first time I'm going to be going Eagles edge. Ajayi and Clement and Blunt are just they play off each other so well. Clement's a very good finesse guy. He's kind of still coming to his own, though. Ajayi is an every down back. He's your workhorse. He's your pounder. LeGarrette Blunt can just... if you have 3 yards to gain, you give it to Blunt. He'll get those 3 yards just pretty much automatically. He's a short yardage situation guy. Ajayi is the every down guy and finesse guy. James White on the Patriots side is very good. He's had himself a great year. He's really kind of establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with in this league. But Burkhead's not as good as people hype him up to be, I don't think. James White's really the the best halfback on that roster, and I don't think he's as good as Jay Ajayi. Then you throw in Blunt and Clement in there as well, and I think the Eagles had the clear edge in halfbacks.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think that Jay Ajayi, the fact that he was traded for midseason speaks volumes about his value. And LeGarrette Blunt is a hell of a backup. I mean, look at what he did for the Patriots last year in their Super Bowl run. I mean, he just feasts in short yardage situations and power runs. I mean, the Patriots, they utilize their backs a lot better than the Eagles could. That's just inherent with having Bill Belichick as your coach. But I just don't know how you can count against Jay Ajayi, who was a top 10 running back, and then LeGarrette Blunt, who can be a top 10 running back in this league.
So we have 5 running backs on our roster. You got Dion Lewis, James White, Rex Burkhead, Mike Gillislee, Brandon Bolden. Dion Lewis, James White are going to definitely make an impact in the run game and the pass game. You can't say that for Blunt and Ajayi. They'll be on the run. Burkhead is definitely an X factor during this game. He hasn't really played much in the last few weeks. They don't have much tape on him. What do you do if you don't have tape on him? How are you going to guard him? Patriots are going to draw up plays for him. Gillislee, I don't even think he's going to be active, honestly, unless we need a power back. And if we do go that plan, Gillislee's going to be active. Then you have Brandon Bolden. He's going to make plays on special teams. You don't have running backs on that team making plays on special teams too. I have to give this to the Patriots.
All right, so for me, breaking it down, I do agree with James in the sense that the Patriots running backs are going to be a bit more impactful in the passing game. But that tends to happen when you don't have the receivers that you've had in years past, and we'll get to that in a second. But for the Eagles utilize their running backs in pass protection. And they block extremely well. They block a whole lot better than I think the Patriots running backs do. Ajayi is going to carve up the inside of the Patriots defense. Blunt is going to power through on the goal line. If it's a goal line situation, they're handing it to Blunt. Yes, you could argue that the Patriots, like Zach said, are going to utilize their running backs in a different way. But again, like Zach said, that's Bill Belichick's utilization, not the running back position as its own. Philly has the advantage at the running back position based on how they can perform, not so much their utilization. If it was strictly utilization, I'd give it to the Patriots. But a combination of everything, I don't see how you cannot give it to Philly solely because Ajayi is above and beyond a number 1 running back. Top 5 running back, arguably. You can't say that about the Patriots. And I think that's where the Eagles get the advantage. So, with a 3-1 split, the Eagles are going to get that point. Now, moving on to the wide out position on the outside. Starting with the Patriots at the wide receiver position, we have Brandon Cooks, Amendola, and Hogan as the main forces for the receivers position, with Slater and Dorsett at the backup. I believe Kenny Britt might be utilized here as well. He's just not on the chart here. On the Eagles side, you have Alshon Jeffrey, Aguilar, and Torrey Smith as the main 3, with Johnson and Hollins as the back 2. So, who do you give the advantage to at the receiver position?
This is actually a pretty tough one, for me at least, because I want to, you want to say that the Patriots wide receivers are beneficiaries of the system that they're in. But honestly, if we're going by pure talent at the wide receiver position, I think the Eagles have better talent in their starters. Granted, Torrey Smith isn't as good as he once was, but Aguilar has had a surprisingly good season. And I think that's because the pressure was taken off of him with Alshon Jeffrey becoming kind of the main focus, the pickup in free agency. This allowed Aguilar to kind of take a step back, and he's become a force this year. Alshon Jeffrey obviously is a great wide receiver as well. Torrey Smith still got the speed, although he, like I said, he hasn't been performing as well this season as previous years. And on the other side, if you compare Brandon Cooks to Alshon Jeffrey this season, Cooks really has not shown me too much. A lot of the Patriots production has been Gronkowski, who we'll talk about in a minute. and Amendola and Hogan kind of doing these underneath routes, and their halfbacks being utilized very well. Cooks has yet to show me this big oh my God, Brandon Cooks, what a great pickup. I haven't really said that this season. So as far as pure talent on the roster, I'm going to give the advantage in wide receivers to the Eagles.
If you do a 1-for-1 matchup, you got Brandon Cooks against Torrey Smith. I mean, Brandon Cooks is probably the more crisp route runner, but Torrey Smith's got better deep speed. On the other side, you got Chris Hogan against Alshon Jeffrey. I don't think there's any question that Alshon Jeffrey is better. And then you got Nelson Aguilar and Danny Amendola. Nelson Aguilar is kind of coming to his own, and Danny Amendola is just consistently good underneath. So I consider that a wash. I mean, it depends on what you want. If you want guys that can run short, crisp routes, you got the Patriots. If you guys want guys that can play big play offense, you got to go with the Eagles. And what wins in the NFL is those big plays. You get those 3, 4, 5, 20-plus yard passes, you win the game. Like that, those are the game-breaking plays. And I think that the receivers just the receivers, because obviously Gronk is a tight end, but just the receivers for the Eagles take the edge on this.
All right, this is going to be probably the toughest one for me, besides the defensive line. I love the Eagles receivers. Like Zach said, they're big, they're tough, they're very big, they have great hands. And then, like Zach said, you have the Patriots, where we're crisp route runners, and they love contact. If you give them contact, they will exploit it, and they will get the penalties, as you saw against Jacksonville. My pick is going to be the Patriots, because you don't know what Philip Dorsett could do. He makes plays. He's been making plays when we need it on third down, because nobody covers him. They're like, oh, we'll just let this random guy. Oh, yeah, he used to be a first-round pick, and he just ran by you for a 20-yard pass. So great job. Then you got Hogan. He is a fighter. And so is Amendola. They're both like Edelman, and that's why Brady loves them. And I think Cooks could draw a few more penalties than Alshon Jeffrey or Torrey Smith. Torrey Smith's just going to run by you. Alshon Jeffrey's just going to jump over you. So, yeah. Patriots.
I have to disagree with you, James, in terms of Brandon Cooks. I don't feel like drawing penalties should be a sign of a good receiver. A good receiver should be able to catch the ball without the penalties, and Brandon Cooks hasn't shown me that much this year at all, unless he's wide open. And usually, if they play him well, and the Eagles have the quarterbacks to do so, we'll get to those in a second, Brandon Cooks, I don't think, is going to be much of a factor in this game. For me, you look at the Eagles receivers as a whole, what they're able to do. I think they've got the advantage here. I really do. I feel like Brady makes his receivers better than they are. And I've always felt that way about the Patriots minus Randy Moss. I've always felt that Brady makes them better. You can't really say that Foles makes Alshon Jeffrey or anyone else on that team better, because they've been doing that all season. With Wentz, with him, it doesn't matter. They're going to perform. They're going to play their heart out. They're going to run past you. I feel like seeing as what Alshon Jeffrey has done with two different types of receivers, and how I think Alshon Jeffrey helped make Carson Wentz the MVP candidate that he was before he got hurt, Alshon Jeffrey alone, for me, gives this advantage to the Eagles.
Yeah, just a little update. That's edge and head coach to the Patriots, edge and quarterbacks to the Patriots, edge and halfbacks to the Eagles, and edge and wide receivers to the Eagles.
Yep, so we're currently split on 2-2 right now. Moving on to another one that I honestly feel like might be a bit of a landslide, even though it's unfair to one of them, but tight end. Tight end between the Patriots and the Eagles. The only real two you need to focus on is we're basically talking of Rob Gronkowski versus Zach Ertz. And Brent Selleck, but mostly Zach Ertz. Who do you give the advantage to?
Okay, the obvious answer is, of course, Gronkowski. He's literally 75% of their offense. I mean, but I don't want to discredit Zach Ertz at all. Zach Ertz is a fantastic tight end. He will be utilized in this game, and he will make a profound impact on this game. Mark my words on that one. But as far as being a pure tight end and being a mismatch for the linebackers that usually cover tight ends, Gronkowski is just one of the most mismatched players in the entire league. Like, how do you cover this guy? He demands attention. He demands players to be pulled away to even have a chance at guarding him. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's definitely the best tight end in the entire league. But Zach Ertz is a fantastic player, and I don't want this to sound like I'm discrediting how good Zach Ertz is. But I'm gonna have to go with Gronkowski and edge Patriots on this one.
Yeah, I got to go with Gronk. He's the biggest mismatch in the NFL. He's faster than any linebacker that'll cover him, minus like Patrick Willis if he's still in the league, or Ryan Shazier. But I mean, even then, he's stronger than any defensive back that'll ever cover him, bar none. Like his strength does not lie in him pushing you, him shoving you, him kind of like running into you. His strength lies in his presence. His presence alone gets defenders off of him. When he catches the ball and somebody goes to tackle him, he doesn't move. He's like a stone. He's a big statue running down the field, catching the ball with hands of glue. Like, that's just who Gronk is. Zach Ertz is like mini Gronk, and that's the best comparison for Zach Ertz in this situation. It's unfair to him because he's probably a top 10 tight end in the league, but it's Gronk all the way.
Eagles tight ends versus Patriot tight ends. You got Ertz, Selleck on the Eagles. Ertz is a great tight end, by far one of the best in the league. Selleck, not so much. He's a good blocker, and he's a good decoy. Then you got Gronk, obviously, probably the best tight end in history, in my opinion. But that's just me being biased. He's just a size mismatch. He gets in your head before the game. He'll hit you every play just because he loves the joy of hitting you. Then you got Dwayne Allen, our second tight end. He is a great blocker. Every run play you see, he's going to be blocking. He's going to be making holes open for our running backs. So, yeah. It's going to the Patriots.
So, I did read something earlier today, which is probably a good thing to note, that Gronkowski was an 80% pick to play the Super Bowl. If for any reason Gronkowski misses this Super Bowl, or Gronkowski, excuse me, forgot the S there. If for any reason Gronkowski misses this Super Bowl, the Eagles are going to be feasting. And it's going to really hurt what the Patriots want to do. I'm pretty sure Gronk is going to play, even if he's not 100%. Gronk is not going to miss out on 2 straight Super Bowls. And as much as I believe that Zach Ertz is probably easily a top 5 tight end, Gronkowski is easily the top. And 1 is better than 5. So I'm going to have to agree, and I'm going to have to give the edge to Gronkowski. So that is a clean sweep for the tight ends with the for the tight end of the Patriots. So, moving on to the offensive line. And this will be the final thing we talk about on the offensive side of the ball between the Patriots and the Eagles before we move to the defense. So, offensive line. We have on the starters for the Patriots, Solder, Thuney, Andrews, Mason, and Cannon. And offensive line starters for the Eagles, Jason Peters, however, he is injured. Samalo, Kelsey, Brooks, and Johnson. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe either Johnson or Peters is injured. Cannot for the life of me remember which one it is. So, starting with Tom, who do you think has the advantage at the offensive line?
This is a really tough one. I love the offensive line. I love O-line, talking about it and blocking and all that, and they're pretty evenly matched on this one. I think it's a toss-up. However, I think what they specialize in is what you need to judge here. The Patriots' offensive line obviously specializes in giving Tom Brady time, because multiple people have said multiple times that the way you beat the Patriots is you have to get to Tom Brady without blitzing. And so they have an offensive line who's kind of built to prevent that, so in that way they're probably better than the Eagles. But as far as running attack and getting Blunt and Ajayi these holes to run through, the Eagles are definitely better. So the thing I think will have the bigger impact on the game is the Eagles' offensive line opening up holes for their halfbacks which is why I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles on this one. But both offensive lines are very good at what they do.
I think that the New England Patriots have the clear better left tackle in Nate Solder and the clear better right guard and Shaq Mason. But the Eagles, I mean, they have Jason Peters, Jason Kelsey, and Lane Johnson.
Sorry to interrupt, Zach, but I did some research. Jason Peters is the one that is injured. He's on the IR. He's replaced by Vital, who is playing exceptionally well right now.
Well, doesn't change what I was saying. I think Jason Peters, Jason Kelsey, and Lane Johnson are all three of them are top 5, top 10 players of their position, whereas Nate Solder is definitely a top 5 player. Shaq Mason's probably top 10, but I just don't know how you can discount what the Eagles do on both sides as far as running and passing. The Patriots' offensive line is predicated on passing and then kind of switching up to the run, whereas the Eagles do it 50-50 even split. So I got to give it to the Eagles.
This one is definitely one of the toughest. I like how both lines are built. The Eagles are built for the run-pass option plays, and they're built to block downfield. Then you have the Patriots that are built for the screen plays. They're built to cover Tom Brady's blind side with Nate Solder, and they're built to run right with Shaq Mason. I honestly don't know. By my bias, I'm going with the Patriots.
So the Patriots' offensive line is 100% predicated on protecting Tom Brady. We've said it in previous podcasts before. The only way to beat Tom Brady is to hit him. That offensive line doesn't let you hit him very often. I thought Jacksonville had the best chance, and they really didn't. The Patriots' offensive line is stacked up, and for everything that the Eagles do, I do believe their offensive line is better individually, but as a unit, I think this is probably the first thing we're split on. I think I'm going to lean on the Patriots on this one, on the offensive line, just because, the problem with the Eagles is Nick Foles doesn't have the mobility Carson Wentz had. And so, Eagle fan John Ahart, a friend of ours, likes to call Nick Foles the statue because he can't move. And so the offensive line is going to have to protect him as well. But the way to beat the Patriots is to hit him. And if you don't hit him, you don't beat him. And they have not let many people hit him. So I actually think we're gonna have to split on this. I think the Patriots. So we're gonna put an X on both teams here. We're gonna call this a split and call this an even split here. So that means because of the split there, we have 4 for the Patriots and 3 for the Eagles, and we're gonna move to before we get to the defense, we're gonna move to special teams. We're going to be looking at kicking. We're going to be looking at punting. We're going to be looking at field goals. We're also going to be looking at the other 10 players on the special teams. The runners, the gunners, etc. So, obviously we don't have any nice fancy statistics to look at here for special teams here outside of the kickers. Gostkowski for the Patriots. Allen is the punter for the Patriots. And on the Eagles, we have not Sturgis. This is wrong. We have Jake Allen, and we have Jones as the punter. So, who do you think has the advantage in terms of special teams?
To be honest, it's really hard to go against Gostkowski. He's just been so good for so long. And, when he does come into play, Ryan Allen does make some pretty good kicks himself. Jake Elliott is good. He's been really good, and especially in the playoffs. He's made some clutch kicks. But I don't think you can compete. He's 23 years old. He doesn't have that much experience kicking in these high-pressure situations, whereas Gostkowski is 34. He has a lot more experience kicking in situations. So kickers, I'm going to have to give it to the Patriots. And Ryan Allen has always been solid. Donnie Jones is pretty solid as well. But like I said, if we're just talking about pure from a place kicker standpoint, I'm going to give the edge to the Patriots on this one.
I would say in terms of punting talent, it's probably a wash. Kicking talent, Gostkowski has a slight edge. Returning talent, I'd have to say that the Eagles have it with Darren Sproles. But, I mean, a Bill Belichick team doesn't lose in special teams. It's just how he thrives on special team success, and that's just who he is. So I got to give it to the Patriots.
The Patriots are my pick in this department. Like Zach said, they are built for special teams. You have Gostkowski kicking the field goals. You have Ryan Allen putting people deep in their own red zone, in their own half. I blanked there. And then you have Matthew Slater gunning it down the field to down that ball. And returning, you have your choice. Do you want a guy that can hold on to the ball and make smart plays in Amendola? Or do you just want to run it down the field real quickly with Dion Lewis? You pick, because they'll give you both.
You know, I have a 60-yard kick by Jake Elliott that's currently sitting in my head right now against the Giants. That really makes me want to give this kid the advantage. But I have to agree with Tom. I think Jake Elliott does not have the experience kicking in high-stress situations. Didn't really have many against the Vikings. He did have quite a few against the Falcons. Without him, they don't win that game. But I really feel, as a whole, the Patriots unit is better on paper. Now, again, with special teams, there's a lot of things that can happen. Muffed punts, anything like that. Yeah, I have to agree with the Patriots on this one. That the Patriots have the better special teams as a whole. So, we are going to be giving the special teams advantage to the Patriots, which now puts our advantage to the Patriots on paper, the paper test, 5-3. So the Eagles have got some room to make up if they're going to have an advantage for us. So we're going to move over to the defensive side of the ball. The Philadelphia Eagles run a base 4-3. Actually, both of them run a base 4-3-D. So we're going to have a pretty even split here. Looking at the defensive line first. For the Patriots, and I apologize for the listeners who are probably noticing that we might be getting some players wrong in terms of injury report. The depth chart we're looking at has not been updated, it seems, so we might have a few players wrong. But on the New England Patriots side of the ball, the defensive players is Lee, Guy, Brown, and Flowers. And on the Eagles side of the ball, we have Graham, Jernigan, Fletcher, Cox, and Curry. So who do you feel like has the advantage on the defensive end of the ball?
I'm just going to say it plain. Fletcher Cox alone gives the edge to the Eagles here. That guy is absolutely vicious, and I think he's better than any player that the Patriots have on their defense in general, but especially on the defensive line. I just think the Patriots defensive line is just there. They do their job. They can stop the run. They'll have some trouble against the Eagles because of how run heavy they are, and they have two very talented halfbacks to deal with. But once again, I think Fletcher Cox is the X factor here. I think this clearly gives the edge to the Eagles on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Fletcher Cox is going to be the X factor as far as getting to Brady. You also got Timmy Jernigan and Brandon Graham, who have been phenomenal all year. Jernigan, former Raven, I know about him pretty well. He has great use of his hands, and he's very, very strong at the point of attack. Gotta give it to the Eagles.
Surprise, surprise. It's definitely going to go to the Eagles because Chris Long and Fletcher Cox and Jernigan. I can't compete with that on the Patriots side. There's a bunch of nobodies that are just put there to do their job.
Yeah, I don't even know how I overlooked Chris Long over there. Yeah, I didn't see him sitting behind Graham. He's the starter now. Yeah, so the Eagles' defensive line has been their strongest suit in terms of consistency and health. Jernigan, outstanding. Chris Long has been phenomenal, and Fletcher Cox. Yeah, you can't argue against Fletcher Cox, no matter what you do. Fletcher Cox can come out there one-armed and beat you, so I absolutely feel like the Eagles have this one by a landslide. So, defensive line is going to the Eagles. Moving on to the linebacking core for the Eagles, we have Kendricks, Hicks, and Bradham with Good, Walker, and Gruger Hill behind them. And we have Van Noy, Roberts, and Harris with Freeney and Flowers sitting behind them. That doesn't look right on my end. James, you want to inform us on the Patriots linebacking core here really quickly?
It's definitely not Van Noy because he's on IR now. So it's Flowers, Roberts, and Harris as the linebackers, and sometimes Freeney as also a middle linebacker.
I just want to say we started this podcast because ESPN is going to crap, and this depth chart that they have supplied us with is proof of that. So, based off all that knowledge, who do you give the advantage to here?
I'm going to be real here. I don't know too much about these two linebacker cores, but I've watched both teams play. And I think that the Eagles take the advantage here as well. Watching them play, they're just really good at stopping the run. They kind of shut down what the Vikings were trying to do last week, and they failed to get any kind of momentum going because they had to rely on Case Keenum to make passes every single play, and they just could never get their run game going. If they do the same thing here, and if they stop the James White and all these halfbacks that they utilize very well on the Patriots side, the Eagles can really put a damper on this Patriots offense. I think that's what's going to happen. They've been really good all year at keeping track of athletes coming out of the backfield. They've been keeping track of quarterbacks, and they've been really good dropping in the coverage. Unfortunately, they have to cover Gronkowski, which is going to be a tall task for any linebacker, but I think they're up to the task. So I'm going to give linebacker edge to the Eagles.
I got to give linebacker edge to the Eagles as well because it's hard for me to say the Patriots when I know what they could be if they would have kept players like Jamie Collins. But the Eagles, Michael Kendricks is a beast linebacker. He's very, very fast, very, very good, very, very talented. Can I go with the Eagles?
Mine is the Patriots, based off solely by the communication the linebackers give to the front four and the corners and the safeties. Their communication is what puts them in the perfect plays every time. They know what you're going to call, and they're going to audible to that right away. And if you audible out of it, they know the second play they're going to right away.
For me, I'm in the same boat as Tom here, really. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with both of the linebacking cores here. For me, I see the Eagles twice a year. I've seen the Eagles twice this year. And the linebacking core is exactly as it looks on paper. They're the intermediate route. The front four is going to rush you. They're the ones that are going to hurt you. The back four are going to be shutting down everybody. The middle just has to watch the short passes. They destroyed Minnesota. Obviously, Gronkowski is a huge matchup nightmare for any of these linebackers, which is a scary thought. Maybe Michael Kendricks can cover him. It'll be interesting to see. But I feel like just based on paper and what I know, I kind of have to give the edge to the Eagles here just because their linebacking core scares me more than the Patriots' linebacking core scares me. I think the Patriots rely more on their back four on defense. And the Eagles have had one of the top defenses all year in terms of yards. Rushing. The rushing game has been impossible to do on the Eagles, and it's not just the front four that causes that. The Patriots, not so much. They've had a little bit of holes in the running defense. So I feel like just based off how the defense has performed, you got to give it to the Eagles here in terms of the front seven entirely. So that is the Eagles. Now, the next one, We're going to do cornerbacks and safeties together. We're going to go ahead and call it the secondary. And this is probably going to be the toughest contest. Honestly, you have Malcolm Butler, Patrick Chung, Devin McCourty, and Stephon Gilmore in the Patriots backfield, and then you have Mills, McLeod, Jenkins, and Darby in the backfield for the Eagles, with Graham and Douglas and Robinson backing up, and then you have Rowe, Richards, Harmon, and Jones backing up for the Patriots. So, who do you think has the advantage here?
Oh man, this is just as tough as it was for me to pick an offensive line advantage. To be honest, I know Darby and Jenkins have had such a great year for the Eagles, and Mills and McLeod have also been on point all year. Surprisingly so to some people. But their secondary has been really on point pretty much all season. They've been tough to throw on all year, but you go to the Patriots, and the Patriots don't have the best defense in the world, but they have a really good secondary that they're working with right now. This is honestly a toss-up for me. I'm gonna go with the Patriots on this one because they've been, I think, more consistent all year. But this is really close. I would say this is even if I could choose it, but I'm gonna give the edge to the Patriots just barely by a hair on this one.
I mean, when you look at them and compare them 1-to-1, you got Devin McCourty and Malcolm Jenkins, who are both top 10 safeties. I consider that a wash. But then when you look at the outside, man, I just don't think that the Eagles have a corner on the same level as Stephon Gilmore, and it's hard to have a better second option than Malcolm Butler, and then your third option is Eric Rowe. Like, that's pretty damn good. Like, I don't know what team can compete with that, but I gotta give edge to Patriots.
Okay, so I'm gonna read you guys two passages out of an article by Andy Bennett from Sports Illustrated on the Patriots secondary / linebacking / D line. The Patriots bend don't break defense. They play a lot of straight man coverage, often with one safety deep and the other robbing over the middle. They blitz rarely, even though some NFL coaches can't. Some NFL coaches believe that coordinator Matt Patricia is the only defensive play caller who truly understands every opponent's pass protection rules. Which means if there's a guy coming this way, they're going to block him first. So he's going to send two guys. So that guy gets picked up and there's a clear lane. Okay. So their D-line does little stunting and slanting after a snap. And even pre-snap disguises can be few and far between. When the Patriots do get aggressive is usually when the offense approaches scoring range. That's the don't break part. What our secondary relies on is athletic. That's a hard word. Athleticism. That's why every regular contributor in the New England secondary was drafted in the second round or higher, except for Harmon and Malcolm Butler. Harmon was in third round, and Butler was a draft pick that shortly emerged as a number one corner. So yeah, I give the edge to Patriots.
To answer, to reply to you, Zach, I feel like Ronald Darby is a bona fide number one corner when he's 100% healthy. Whether he's 100% healthy right now, it's up in the air. Jenkins and McLeod, honestly, for me, are about on the same level, if not a little bit. They kind of intermingle. I could probably put McCourty, Chung, McLeod, and Jenkins all kind of in the same bunch. And so the deciding factor becomes that second cornerback. And I have to agree with you. I think Malcolm Butler is better than Jalen Mills. Not by much. I feel like the secondary is extremely competitive. It kind of goes back to the tight end where it's like, 1A and 1B. And I kind of have to go with the Patriots on this one. Just because, like I said, not to take anything away from the Eagles secondary. The Eagles have had one of the best defenses all year. The secondary is a good part of it, but just focusing on the two, I think you have to go the Patriots here. So, that gives us the tally of Patriots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the Eagles have a tally of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The only reason it is that close is because for O-line, they both got credit because it was split. So, that gives the edge on paper to the Patriots. Now, now comes the eye test and the execution test matched up with the coaching on both sides. So, honestly, guys, around the room, how do you see this game going based on how the Eagles defense matches up with the Patriots offense and how the Patriots offense matches up with the, or Patriots defense matches up with the Eagles offense, excuse me.
Okay, I'm going to say what I think the score is going to be, and then I'm going to explain myself. I think it's going to be 27-24 Eagles. And the reason I think that is the only matchup that's worth noting here, in my opinion, is the Patriots offense versus the Eagles defense. Nick Foles has shown in the last couple of games that he can play well. Last week he had a fantastic game. Obviously, if he plays like that, the Eagles have a real chance here. But he doesn't. As long as he doesn't make any mistakes, he has a great offense around him. As long as he doesn't make any mistakes, they'll be fine. They'll score points. The Eagles' defense is absolutely disgusting, and they're really hungry to get to Brady. And if they start getting to Brady and they start disrupting that flow that I was talking about, where they have the very well-utilized halfbacks and the very speedy halfbacks, if they shut that down and make Tom Brady start shucking balls out deep and utilize or not utilize, but take advantage on some of the mistakes that he makes. Maybe he throws a pick, maybe he gets strip sacked, maybe James White fumbles the ball and Nick Foles gets the ball back and he takes advantage of those mistakes, which I think he will. I think the Eagles have a real shot here. Everyone is counting the Eagles out. They're playing off that very well. I honestly think I like cheering for the underdog, obviously. So maybe it's just me, but I honest to God think that the Eagles can really make a run at this thing. They have all the tools that are needed to shut down what the Patriots want to do. So yeah, Eagles 27, Patriots 24.
I think special teams isn't going to play a huge part in this. Neither team has a really game-breaking punter, kicker, returner, and returning's kind of been washed out of the league anyways. When you look at offense versus defensive matchups, you got Tom Brady against a hellacious Eagles defense. You got Nick Foles against a fearless New England defense. I think Nick Foles can play to the level of Tom Brady for one game. Obviously, he's not the caliber player to have a career or even a season like Tom Brady, but I think for one game he can pull something out of the hat. I think it's going to come down to the key matchup to me is going to come down to Malcolm Jenkins on Gronk. Malcolm Jenkins is itching to get into that matchup, and it'll just be a matter of can he get help from his teammates at the right time to. You're not going to shut down Gronk, but you just want to interfere with him. Gronk likes rhythm. He likes to catch it in stride and run with it and do those kind of things. Catch it. He doesn't like plays that are broken down or getting off his spot or getting kind of pushed around at the point of attack. But I think it's going to come down to Malcolm Jenkins against Gronk, and I'm gonna choose Patriots 24-21.
In years past, in our Super Bowls, I'm always afraid of our defense because I know they're going to give up that big play. But for the first time, I actually feel confidence in our defense, and it's a nice feeling. Now I see why Zach likes defense so much. But yeah, so Patriots offense, I think, is going to have their way with the Eagles defense. And our defense, if we could stop the run and make Nick Foles actually throw it to our secondary, it's going to be a great game for us. I think we'll win 30-17.
So, for me, and I know this is going to sound crazy because I've said it now 2 weeks in a row, the best way to beat Tom Brady, the only way to beat Tom Brady, is to hit him. The matchup for me is the Eagles' defensive line versus the Patriots' offensive line. If the Eagles can consistently, for 4 quarters, and that's the big thing that the Jaguars couldn't do, for 4 quarters, you have got to make Brady work. If Brady is on the move, then, then you're going to win. The other thing is going to be play calling in the second half. What killed the Falcons last year was they gave up on the run. You had a 28-3 lead, and you stopped running the ball. The Eagles will not make that same mistake. I don't think they're going to get a 28-3 lead, but even a 17-14 lead. Feed Blunt, feed Ajayi. If you can do that, and you can work the clock to where Tom Brady doesn't have time, but you've got to score. That's what killed Jacksonville, was they were running the clock, but then they weren't scoring in the end. They kept giving Brady opportunities. And then the defense, the fourth quarter, they stopped hitting Brady. You have to play a perfect game to beat the Patriots. And I'm not sure the Eagles can. So I'm going to go Patriots 24-21. And that hurt.
It
Betrayed.
I'm sorry. I have Eagles
Shun
fans.
the non-believer.
I'm sorry. I have Eagles fans that are gonna hate me for that. But I gotta speak. These podcasts, we gotta speak from the brain, not the heart. As much as I want to see the Eagles win, brain's telling me Brady in the fourth quarter of any game is a nightmare unless it's a multiple score game. And they
Eric
showed
hates
last
the
year.
underdog.
I don't hate the underdog. But it's really hard to pick against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. It really is, without Eli Manning playing the other side. So, sorry, Eagles fans. I wish y'all the luck. I hope. Please prove me wrong.
Hey, just a little note right here. The line is Patriots by 4 right now, which is interesting. I thought it would be more. Huh.
It was more at first. I think they kind of evened the line out.
It started off as 6, I think.
Yeah, I think Gronk's availability is what's hurting it. The fact that Gronk isn't a definite to play. And that's another big thing.
He's gonna play.
Well, he's gonna play. But again, if he's not 100%, that's Zach's big clutch card. There is Gronk. If he's not 100%, is he really? I think a lot's going to determine if the Eagles can give consistent pressure on Brady for the entire game, and how many opportunities do you give him?
I still want to know what Gronk's concussion questions are.
What's your favorite Super Bowl number? And he'll probably say 69, and you're good to go.
Which one of your collection is your favorite rubber ducky to play with?
Number 69.
Gronk.
The one with the cowboy hat.
But
right, no, he's fine. He knows what his rubber ducky collection is.
But that is the end of the podcast for February. We hope you guys enjoyed our Super Bowl breakdown. We hope you guys comment down below on what your Super Bowl breakdown is and what you think is going to happen. And we will see you guys in a month for this podcast. Keep in mind that we're cutting the sports podcast to once a month. We have a gaming-oriented podcast coming out on the 16th, I believe, is what's on my schedule here. And that'll be the first gaming podcast we've ever done. These 3 will be joining me for that, and then we will have 2 guests that are rotating. So I'm really excited for that. I've got a lot of really good ideas for that. I'm really excited to start that podcast up, and I hope you guys will join us if you're into that type of stuff, and I hope you 3 gentlemen are as excited for that as I am.
Yep, it should be great. And side note, I hope the commercials are better this year for the Super Bowl. I was thoroughly disappointed last year.
You don't want the monkey back?
I would take anything that's like shocking or funny at this point. Last year was really bad. I hope they make up for it this year.
How many dilly commercials?
I know. How many commercials?
What's the over or under?
4.
I'm gonna say 3. 4.
It's
Maybe 3 Bud Light commercials.
Zach, how many you guessing? I'm guessing 2.
5.
That shaky voice. 5, I guess. No, I can say 3. They're gonna have like a 3-part saga.
They're gonna beat that thing like the dead horse that was the Budweiser Clydesdales.
I want them to have a commercial primed if the Eagles win, where they say Philly, Philly instead.
They will. That'll be the
I
fifth
want to
one.
have like a post.
Submit it to Doritos. Submit it to Doritos.
Where is Doritos? I want a banger. Doritos, come on.
But that is it for us. We hope you had a fantastic time listening to us. Please communicate. Give us stories. We have a month to generate these things. Give us stories. We need them. And unless these guys have any final closing thoughts, we'll be signing off.
No, just a commercial thing.
Alrighty, guys. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you all in 2 weeks for the gaming podcast and a month for the sports podcast. My name's Eric, signing off.
Peace.
Go Patriots.